Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, whether you're tuning in on the radio dial in Mississippi at WYAD 94.1 FM. We welcome you all to our program, as well as joining us through our online affiliates around the world. We're glad to have all of you with us as well. We're excited to welcome Elizabeth Dulberger to our program today. Elizabeth is someone who's been able to make a name for herself, not only as a leadership coach, but also as a speaker, and she's the author of a book that I think you all will find fascinating, regardless of where your role is professionally. The book is called Smoke and Mirrors, Strategic Self-Awareness for Leaders and Future Leaders. We'll talk to Elizabeth not only about the writing of the book, but also what it's been like for her already to see the response and what she hopes you're able to take away from it. Elizabeth, hello to you and welcome to the program.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me.
Hey, glad to have you on with us, Elizabeth. As I said, we'll talk about the book a little bit later, but what has it been like for you, Elizabeth, in the work that you've been able to do to coach leaders as well as, of course, to be able to empower them through speeches? What has it been like for you already to see the response?
Great question. It's been insane, to be honest. It's who knew self-awareness would, get people's attention? I think I did when it kind of started my journey towards self-awareness. And, you've got everybody under the sun who needs a dose of this, I think, Cyrus, and you'd probably agree, probably through your own journey. But getting to know yourself better in any capacity, whether I use it in coaching or whether you're, a stay-at-home mom or, understanding yourself, understanding the things you do well, understanding the things you don't do very well, and maybe taking focus off those things and not spotlighting them is wise. But, we could all use a dose of this. And I didn't write this book because I think it helps, CEOs and people at the top predominantly, it does sometimes, but this helps every individual on earth. If I could teach self-awareness to its, highest degree, I probably would do that for the predominant time in my life. But I think I had a little bit to contribute to your journey in self-awareness, so I wrote it down.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that point about who the book is for, Elizabeth, and we're going to get more into it later, but I think a great thing to mention is something that you say kind of early on, and that is that, you have yourself been able to benefit from learning from others. Was it an easy journey for you to get to a place where you now become the person that others look to?
Definitely not. I've faced a tremendous amount of pressure and certainly a lot of challenges in my life to get to a particular point where I said, wow, I don't know how I did this, and, let me kind of refresh myself. What was my path? And a lot of the things I've been through, and you could probably relate, and your listeners would definitely relate, is you find a little bit more about yourself as you progress through life. And, some of us are there pretty early on in our life. Some of us, it takes a while because our journeys are all very different. But understanding yourself or getting to a point where you truly, truly understand who you are, it brings better people into your life. It brings appreciative people, people who acknowledge you for the things that you possess, people who want to give to you, and not just take from you. I find that the closer you become to yourself, the closer you take that, the closer that journey brings you to who you truly are, the more authenticity you gather around you. And I certainly had not gotten there alone. I don't know if I'm fully there. It's presumptuous, but certainly I'm on my way. And the people that have helped get me through inspired me to now become that person that helps.
I think the other side of it, too, Elizabeth, that you were able to touch on, and I actually noticed you do this in a video that I watched when I was prepping for the segment, that you talk about the importance of realizing what is inside of you. You realized it early on for yourself, that there was something that you had, a gift that you had been given, and now, of course, you're able to use that gift in a way that's able to help people not only from person to person, but also through books like Smoke and Mirrors. Do you think that also is part of what you've been able to do to help people to tap into their own gift and realize the importance of sharing it with others?
Absolutely, yes. I think I've done that with everyone I coach, and some of them I'm still kind of stuck in the journey of eventually getting there. But yes, and I don't necessarily take the most traditional path to that, I certainly didn't get there in a traditional sense. I'd never had a coach. I was just, I think, lucky enough to have people surround me that pointed things out in me, or whether they were negative or positive, it doesn't matter. But yes, I certainly have a bunch of people around me, clients or people that I've even spoken in front of, that would come up to me at a later date. And it's always later. Realizations come later. You've got to wait until people go through certain situations that you've prepared for them to go through. So yes, I do have a lot of people reaching out to me and saying, wow, I didn't see this in myself, and you saw it, and I kind of fought you. Because that's what you get, Cyrus. You get a little bit of that rebellious. At first you get rebellion. You get, no, that's not for me, or I don't think I'm like that, or so. And if you caught my denial video online, it's on YouTube. I talk a lot about, people who are in denial and just kind of lying to themselves, which is okay. I mean, we all do a portion of that. It's what gets us through. I get it. But eventually you have a breakthrough, and it feels unbelievable.
Right. Especially when you're able to share that with other people. I want to say, for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Elizabeth Dulberger to our program today. She's not only a leadership coach, a speaker, and the author of the book called Smoke and Mirrors. We'll remind you at the end of the segment how you can be able to get it for yourself. So talk to us about the Dulberger Group, Elizabeth, and what it's been like for you to form it. And then, of course, to be able to, as you were saying, to be able to help to shepherd people through it, to not only to being the type of leader they can be, but also to realize the potential inside of themselves.
Sure. I formed it. I think I'm a natural entrepreneur, and a lot of people that are listening to your program will recognize that within themselves, whether they can work for someone else or they're going to try really, really hard to work for themselves. And I tried really hard to get out there and do various things while I was younger, and some of them were reasonably successful, some of them were not very successful, and so I moved on, and I walked through all that rejection and walked through the pushbacks, and I still walk through pushbacks. I mean, it doesn't go away. But eventually my company was formed sort of with my desire. I was in the corporate world still doing this, I don't know, not many people know I was doing this, but I was always coaching. I was always mentoring. I was always kind of trying to steer people into transformations. I've always been doing it since I was in my early 20s. And eventually, once I got out of my last corporate position, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, I think I have a little business here. I'm not sure, but let me reach out to some folks and see if they want to participate in some portion of my consultancy. And eventually people started saying yes, and I started being invited to associations and some chamber of commerces, and people started inviting me to speak, and I didn't really have a roster of, big name speeches I've done in the past. I just did it on my own, and certainly I'm nowhere near where I want to be in terms of recognition, but it built on its own. And that's just the thing, Cyrus. When it's what you are meant to do, I think it builds.
Right.
Would you agree?
I think that's the truth. I totally agree. And I think you bring up a point that I think we talk about a lot on this program, and that is, how you're able to overcome the fear. Because for you to be able to do what you have done, of course, takes a great deal of faith for one thing, but also I think, the idea of saying, okay, I'm going to go from just talking about this and thinking about it to actually doing it. I mean, did you find that part of the reason why you've been able to have the success you've had, Elizabeth, is because you didn't allow the idea of what others might say stop you?
150%, Cyrus. I mean, I feel like sometimes I walk on this earth for the purpose of being criticized. I mean, I certainly had my share of, you're young, what do you know? Or, get off the stage, what are you going to teach us? And I think that, as you said, confidence is a big thing. When you know that the message that you're delivering is of importance, and if it changes at least 2 lives in the room, you know what, I'll take 1 life. I'll take 1 person in the room of maybe 700. If I have some kind of influence, I will withstand the criticism. I will withstand the doubters, the naysayers. When you believe strongly in the things that you want to accomplish, I'm not saying it doesn't bother you. Certainly things, people who say they don't care about what other people say about them or think about them, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that they're spilling tears over it, but everyone to some degree thinks about it. And it can't just not affect you. But the more confident you are, and the more you believe in your message and in the things that you do to serve humanity. We all serve humanity in some way, all the way from janitors all the way up to the President of the United States. We serve humanity in some way, one way or another. So when you believe in what you're doing to serve humanity, it's a little bit easier to lose that fear and step onto that stage. And I've witnessed that with my clients. I've witnessed my clients go from incredible fear because what they were doing was not what they were meant to do, or how they were going about doing it was not coming from a place of authenticity or confidence. And the fear just sheds when you know that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, or what you love to be doing, or how you're contributing to the world. So it doesn't disappear, but it's easier to bear.
Right, exactly, and I think that's it. So was the writing of the book for you, Elizabeth, a way to be able to amplify the message that you were sharing, whether you were speaking or coaching?
Yes, 100%. You know who I really want to pick up this book? The folks that can't hire me, right? The college student just graduating, getting into the corporate world that's going to be hit over the head with all this reality that, may be hidden behind a boss that will never let him shine, that will never let him, kind of get to the next level that he or she deserves. Or a person who doesn't really understand, how the political world works, political alignment. And I don't mean politics. I mean just office politics, really. Sure. In my book, I talk a lot about how to get around those things and how to notice them, how to spot them really quickly, how to spot the people that will influence you versus the people that will never influence you in a positive way. So I want folks that will not have access to me or will not be able to attend one of my workshops or to be able to pick it up and go to a particular chapter of their interest and read it and go, I know who she's talking about here. Yeah. So certainly I want to amplify them. You said it.
And I think the other side of it too is that, for what I can gather, and I'll have you answer this, is that it's also the reminder of realizing that in order to be an effective leader, you have to be able to surround yourself with the right people. How important has association been for you, Elizabeth, in your own success, and how important of a component of that do you share with those that you coach?
What a great, Cyrus, you're just full of amazing questions. I love this question. It's so important. It is so important. I mean, and again, I don't know whether I can attribute it to luck. When you're really, really young, it's probably luck. But once you get older and once you start working and once you start exposing, people are everything. Your influences will be what you become. The people that you go to high school with. If your high school thinks it's cool to skip class, you'll skip class. If your high school has a bunch of kids whose parents are going to give them really expensive gifts, if they get A's, everyone will get A's. And you'll be influenced, but because the girl next door is getting an A, so you're going to be studying. There's a huge influence from the people that you surround. You're going to become them. So I have been very conscious, and my mother says this all the time. Even when my teens, I kind of was very cognizant of who was around me. Is this person teaching me kind of the good or the bad or the ugly? What am I learning? And I've always had exposure to. And this is in my book, sorry. So I've been around powerful people from a very young age. I became an assistant to a very well-known, successful CEO at a young age. And then since I supported 4 more after that. I did it for short term, but I surrounded myself with people of influence, and I watched them make decisions. I did it from a small role. I was young, and I was learning. And but being beside that type of power, watching negotiations, some of the techniques I use today, I picked up from really powerful people. So you become them. So watch your circles. These people will have a bigger influence than you can imagine.
Right. I think that's it. And that ties in well with the final point I wanted to make from the book, Elizabeth, and that is from Chapter 6, Recognizing Dead Ends and Getting Back on Track. We have been talking about a lot on this program that as we are now, this year is fastly coming to an end, and people are looking at where they are and thinking about the goals they set for themselves or the resolutions that they've made, and they're seeing how far they might be from those, from where they want to be. I think a lot of people, they become dejected, they give up. People will tell them, well, look, I told you that wasn't going to work, or I told you you shouldn't have done X, Y, or Z, or we tell ourselves that, which sometimes I think we're our worst critics. How important has it been for you to not be defined by the disappointments?
Oh, my God. I had to learn it like everyone else. I mean, I had to go through them. I mean, like we all do. But I think, Cyrus, what people don't, usually think about. And, dead ends is a tricky thing. Yes, part of what I mean by that is get off this path. It's not serving you. Go another way. This person's not going to promote you. Go another way. Recognize the signs. And, we do it in love, too. We don't recognize the signs of the person that we're dating, how dangerous they could be in the future, or maybe this, how unfitting for you they may be, because there's a desire to succeed. We don't want to fail. We don't want to start anew. And, yes, a portion of my book does suggest start anew. This isn't working. However, there are different paths to your goals. So sometimes all I mean is take a different route. You're not on a boat, get on a plane. You've held hands with this person, try it with this one. They'll get you farther. Or, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give up on your goals. You don't have to give up on that particular goal. Take a different road. And recognizing and admitting that these signs are very meaningful is very important and a huge part of self-awareness.
And to be self-aware, that I think is a theme for you. You alluded to earlier about your video. I mentioned the video that I watched earlier when I was prepping for this segment as well. You've been able to use new media to be able to help get the word out. You have a Facebook fan page for the Dulberger group that we'll remind people of as well. Talk to us about that. I mean, as you said, you wrote this book, Elizabeth, for people who could not, hire you as a coach, but you now have the world literally at your fingertips with Twitter. You're on Twitter. You're on Facebook. You have your website. What has that been like for you to see that real-time interaction?
Amazing. I have this thing where, and it may not be true. You might challenge me on this, but, I think that the people that are furthest from you or the people that don't yet know of you kind of support you a little bit better than people that are really close to you. And it's not because they don't mean it. I think it's because they kind of know you all your life and, yeah, you're great, brah, you wrote a book, wonderful. And, I'm getting a tremendous amount of appreciation from people I've never seen in my life, people on Instagram who liked my quote. I've got this thing where I write a lot of quotes, and I kind of do it so that my kids will remember me for a long, long time. And my mom said a quote, and but I send a lot of my messages through them. They're very meaningful to me. But to have this tremendous response to something, to a struggling entrepreneur, because of one of the things I wrote for entrepreneurs in a quote is tremendous. I am not a very good media marketer. I'm not good at it at all. I could be doing a lot more marketing than I am. I want the people that need the message. I feel that they'll find me, and I find that the people that react to the message the quickest are the ones ready for some kind of transformation, are the ones ready to really learn about themselves. And the ones that aren't eventually will be. There will come a time when you're ready.
Yeah. No, I actually totally agree with you about that comment, Elizabeth, about I've seen it myself in my own life that a lot of times those that are closest to you are a little bit slower in coming around. Like you said, I totally get it. And like I said, I've experienced that myself. I think, unfortunately, though, that fact it can be discouraging for some because you would expect naturally that those who do quote unquote know you. Yeah. But I think, it goes back to the point we were making about why we can't be defined by that. And I think it goes to something else, talking about quotes. I can't remember where you put this. Can't remember if it was in the book or if it was on your website or on one of your social media, basically talking about the importance of staying focused on the path, making sure you're doing what you're doing not for a like or for a share, but because it's what you truly believe, who you truly are.
Yes.
Basically was the message I got away from it. And I think if people are doing what they're doing for the right reason, I totally agree with you. People will come. The people will come that are supposed to be able to benefit from that. So what is your hope? When people read Smoke and Mirrors, Elizabeth, what do you hope the book does for them in not only, of course, becoming more, take charge in their lives and their careers, but also making the changes they need to make?
The first message I need to get across is that we are all going through the same things that you are going through. I used to believe that I'm alone. And I think part of the reason maybe spiritually I got into coaching is so that I can hear other people are having issues too. And there's a part of me that felt that I was at work struggling by myself, or going through a politically charged situation by myself, or had a rumor said about me, and it was all me and I was alone in it. And I whatever the criticism and the judgment, that we all have these, and there's a reason I wrote this book based on experience with probably hundreds of people that are facing very similar issues. I mean, they're facing them in a different context, but we are all going through these trials and tribulations. And the one message that is very clear in my book is, number one, you've got to take it into your own hands. You've got to notice that this isn't for you, turn around, turn away, and try to do it on your own, or try to do it some other way. And the second message is that you will succeed. Perseverance is everything. You get there. The people that don't get there haven't, in my opinion, just maybe haven't tried enough. And it could be very, very discouraging, but there will be a light and there will be something ahead for you. We are all here to serve humanity in some way. You will get there. And I think that in order to get there, you've got to kind of do it with your eyes closed a little bit and put those, put the fingers in your ears like the kids used to do. La, 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 I don't hear you, I don't hear you. How do you get there? You start believing in yourself. When you believe in yourself, your heart feels a little bit fuller, and you're not looking for other people to fill that space as much anymore. You believe in yourself, and you love yourself. You like yourself a whole lot. You think you're a good person, and that's what gets you there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And what a great message for our audience to be able to take to heart for themselves. Again, everyone, Elizabeth Dulberger has been our guest. Great conversation with you, Elizabeth. Her new book is called Smoke and Mirrors. So make sure you all go over to Amazon.com and be able to get the book for yourself. It's a great way for you to be able to think about where you are and where you want to go. The subtitle of the book is Strategic Self-Awareness for Leaders and Future Leaders. So, again, a little something for everyone. I mentioned earlier that you're on social media as well as your website, Elizabeth, so let our audience know how they can stay connected with you.
I mean, I love Instagram at Liz Dulberger. I use Liz a lot. Some things I use Elizabeth, some things I use Liz. At Liz Dulberger will probably get you to me. On Dulbergergroup.com, I'm very interactive with everyone. I have time for the smallest of questions, because sometimes the smallest question gets you to the biggest place. And I'm a big believer of that. People had time for me when I was trying to get my business started, and I have time for everyone else.
All right, great way to be able to be, again, everyone, DulbergerGroup.com. And as you mentioned, you can find her as Liz Dulberger on Instagram as well as on Twitter. So make sure you all take advantage of that. Liz, congratulations to you again. Thank you so much for the time, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Me too, Cyrus. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your amazing program.
Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate the conversation. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. If you all came in late, you missed part of the conversation with Elizabeth. Don't worry. Thanks to our online friends, you all can catch the replay right after we go off the air. The link is already available through our social media site. So head over to Facebook.com/Cyrus Webb or go over to Twitter.com/Cyrus Webb. If you click on the link there, you can listen to the show completely for free and share it with your friends from there too. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Make sure you take out time to enjoy some good music as well as a great book. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live today. You all make it a great one.